It's hard to believe that my book, The New Barbarian Manifesto, was published 21 years ago on January the 1st, 2000. It seems like just yesterday when I was making my forecasts for the global effects of information and communication technologies. Although the examples I used are now showing their age, many of the book's forecasts have already happened or are still coming to pass. Not that I'm happy about being proved right, because I consider some of my predictions most distressing. My fears are best expressed in W.B.Yeats's poem, The Second Coming. Things fall apart. The centre cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lacked all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Steeped in the industrial age, the economic institutions of the mid to late 20th century, its modes of employment, its salary scales, etc., are unable to survive the huge social and cultural changes emerging in the information age. I was predicting that the status quo, the centre, would not hold out against the attacks from barbarian hordes, both old and new. So, who are these two types of barbarian? First, the old barbarians. These push rejuvenated forms of previously discredited totalitarian ideologies like religion, socialism, Marxism, communism, fascism, racism, nationalism, populism, and 101 other isms, all with passionate intensity. The old barbarians are intent on forcing their fundamentalist gospels of a false past and a delusional utopian future onto the degenerating present. A present that is impotent to repulse them. These old barbarians have contempt for the status quo. Their only concern is how to overcome other competing forms of old barbarism, and now increasingly to cope with the new barbarians. The new barbarians, on the other hand, are ruthless in putting the economic success of the individual and the firm before the political demands of the masses. They are capitalist oligarchs and plutocrats, of and for the information age. To them, the notion of human rights is just as peculiar as the divine right of kings. Their focus is on the acquisition of power. As for their attitude towards the masses, they echo Nietzsche's aphorism, "Many too many are born. The state was devised for the superfluous ones." There is nothing superfluous in the regions they control. New barbarian domains will be right-sized, minimizing the levels of latent internal and external costs in both the short and long terms. With the taxpayers far outnumbering the tax takers and public spending minimized, taxes will be kept low. These oligarchies, plutocracies, will be run like corporations, prospering economically on the efforts of an elite few and treating labour as a commodity. The warnings of Karl Marx echo across the centuries. Worshipful capitalists will never want for fresh, exploitable flesh and blood, and will let the dead bury their dead. Attitudes towards the workers hark back to the robber barons of the 19th century, like Henry Frick, who would hire one half of the working class to kill the other. The roles of politicians in this new barbarian order is threefold. 1. Manipulate the masses into passive compliance. 2. Produce the right people with the right knowledge and expertise as the raw material for the global companies. And 3. provide those companies with an efficient infrastructure, a minimally regulated market, and a secure, stable, and comfortable environment. The new barbarians are to be found amongst the winners in the emerging economic and technological reality. My book warns of a time rapidly approaching when across the globe large numbers of new barbarians, these companies and individuals, will be escaping both penal taxation in their home countries and their demonization amongst the general public to create and control smart regions. In a previous video, I gave examples of this process already starting in the United States. In expatriating, the new barbarians will leave the losers to circle their wagons around old values and rituals, easy prey for the old barbarians. New barbarians see high taxation as theft. When these firms and wealthy individuals finally tire of being ripped off and abused, they will simply move on to friendlier climes. Hardly a day goes by without some company or individual considering a move to escape increasingly complex and expensive tax regimes. When will idiot politicians stop their populist rhetoric of taxing the rich and finally realize that they do not have the power to intimidate global corporations and high net worth individuals? For in escaping, these companies and individuals are not rats leaving a sinking ship. They are simply embryonic new barbarians reshaping global governance. The spectre of a new barbarism is increasingly haunting the globe, and this is being confronted by the degenerating powers that be, who are finally recognizing the growing threat. However, the new barbarians are still disorganized, unaware of their identity and political potential. But they are slowly getting their act together, as I explained when laying out their views, their aims, their tendencies in the new Barbarian Manifesto. Meanwhile, the old barbarians see only decadence among the status quo and are making their play for power. In the coming conflict, it is becoming clear that ordinary people have only two choices: support these new barbarians and advance into an uncertain capitalistic future with intellectual freedom but no political influence, or submit to the tyranny of the old barbarians and their woke fundamentalist gospels in what will be, for the majority, a dystopian future. I predict the outcome of the coming battle will be a world of three zones. The first world will be right-sized, a libertarian realm of new barbarians which supports the rights of the entrepreneurial business and the individual above the rights of the tribe. In this increasingly oligarchic, plutocratic environment, Voltaire may well have been right. The best government is a benevolent tyranny, modified by an occasional assassination. The second world is wrong-sized, an easy compromise between old barbarian ideologies and the economics of the modern world. Their totalitarian mode of governance will focus exclusively on the rights of the imagined collective, where in reality people are just the property of the political elite. Might is right in the third world. It's a place of terror and repression. Putting it brutally, the three worlds are an open society, a closed society, and no society. Those trapped in the two lesser worlds will be forced to conform to the demands of the old barbarians. Therefore, everyone who values individual intellectual freedom must throw in their lot with the new barbarians. The alternative is to be left to the mercy of the manipulators of the masses, forced to accept the propaganda and mind control of religious, political and ethnic bigotry, or suffer the consequences. The history of every human society has been of the tension between the individual and the collective, between the self and the tribe, between personal, private aspirations and social norms. Today, the individual is again faced with the evils of religion, ethnicity, populism, nationalism, socialism, and combinations thereof, or not forgetting environmentalism, all intent on taking away personal freedoms. Examples of political unrest, an age of rage, if you like, are emerging everywhere. Earlier this century we had the G7, G8 and G20 riots. More recently the riots of Black Lives Matter movement and the storming of the US Capitol building. Then there are the Proud Boys and various right-wing militias. The tensions are apparent in both the support for and opposition to the divisive rhetoric of Donald Trump's Make America Great Again and its confrontation with Biden's neo-socialism and the new president's support for the anti-capitalist Green New Deal, admittedly somewhat watered down. It's there in Antifa, the fascist anti-fascists, and in other examples of revitalized Marxism, such as Extinction Rebellion, which is masquerading as radical environmentalism, all spouting anti-capitalist propaganda, virtue signalling their indignant, self-righteous certainties in attempts to gag free speech. Meanwhile, the European Union is undermining the democratic basis of its 27 members, all the while risking confrontation with Tsar Putin's Russia. Poland and Hungary are castigated for their perceived failings in relation to the rule of law. But whose law, they ask? The deluded willingness of the Scottish nationalists to risk economic suicide as the price of an imaginary freedom, but this time under the yoke of Brussels rather than London. The Catalonians, the Flemish and others have similar freedom aspirations. The consequential transition to the New World is a confused mix of old and new barbarisms. Lockdown during COVID-19 outbreak are welcomed by all barbarians among the political elites as the first step on their wished-for road to serfdom for the masses. In the beginning of their power grab, all barbarians are always so very reasonable in their reasonableness, but only in the beginning. Meanwhile, fake news is being spread by big media, selecting what can't be seen by the masses. The bias was clearly apparent during the 2020 US presidential election. Big tech is joining in by slanting what they allow to appear on social media. The leaders of both big media and big tech are in denial that they are new barbarians, deluding themselves that they are supporting democracy by being blatantly undemocratic. Political leaders, however, are in no doubt. They know a new barbarian when they see one. Witness the efforts in both the UK and the EU to rein in the global tech giants. They want to hold the likes of Google, Amazon and Facebook to account. Politicians want to force the large global tech companies to divest themselves of some of their assets or face fines of up to 10% of their annual global revenues for breaking new rules that are in the process of being outlined. Under the guise of addressing the risks faced by tech users, like removing illegal online goods and services and contents, the protection of user rights and transparency, etc. Politicians are trying to stop the tech giants before they become too powerful. It's already too late. Consequently, individuals have a simple choice. They must flee to the new world of smart regions run by new barbarians to prosper in this climate of individualism and of intellectual and financial freedom, although with highly restricted political and legal rights. Should such individuals fail to escape the clutches of old barbarians in large enough numbers, then the tyranny of a new dark age will soon engulf us all. Welcome to the future. Welcome to the brave new world of the new Barbarian Manifesto. Thank you.